I'd like to draw everybody's attention back up to the front for a while. We have two more presentations this afternoon, and first I would like to welcome a team from the Panther Biz Hub, which is a program of the John Papajohn Entrepreneurial Center. We approached them last fall with the idea of giving us some steps that we could work on toward a collaborative marketing project for Native Seed. I'm not saying I'm doing it, but I wanted to have help from some people with greater expertise in this field than we have as native plant people, some help in thinking about how some of the people in this room, some of the organizations, agencies in this room could come together around a cooperative, collaborative marketing strategy to get more native seed into the landscape. And so I'd like to welcome first Patrick Linsman, who's the director of the John Papajohn Entrepreneurial Center, which I could say twice in a row. And he's going to introduce the student team who worked on this project. So please welcome Patrick Linsman and the Panther Biz Hub team.
Thank you, Laura. We're happy to be here. Again, I'm Patrick Linsman, director of the John Papajohn Entrepreneurial Center. We're super excited to go right after lunch because I know everyone is really ready to refocus and get back into it. Entrepreneurial Center, you're like, well, how does this fit? We first and foremost work with students on starting and running their own businesses. But one of those most important things about business is doing marketing. So we have a student team called Panther Biz Hub that specifically helps businesses with looking at their marketing tactics and strategies. Things from color schemes or the approach to the customer or different things like that. So when we talked with Laura, we approached it from a space to bring ideas. And so they looked at some websites in the industry, some that may look familiar to you, and looked at things that were potentially things to replicate and others where you can continue to improve and really want to spur the ideas into things that could follow up into an additional conversation around marketing and anything with that. So that's kind of why we're here today, what we're going to do. So our two members of the student team, we've got Haley Ham and Kate McAllister. They're going to wave. And then is this just on AV mute? Is that how I turn the screen on so we can?
I think it just went to sleep, maybe.
Let's see if I try that first. We checked everything but the actual projector.
It was working earlier. Oops, I clicked out.
I think we got it. I think we're going. Yeah, see, look at that. That's what maybe it was.
Success.
All right. Let's welcome Haley and Kate. Here we go.
Thank you all. We're happy to be here today and to be presenting in front of you all. Just a little disclaimer, we're definitely not professionals in Native Seed, but it has been a pleasure learning about what you guys do and the things that you enjoy, and we've learned a lot beyond marketing, but just in the Native Seed industry and some things that you guys do for a living every day. With that being said, my name is Haley Ham. I'm a second-year junior here at the University of Northern Iowa, studying public relations, marketing, and entrepreneurship. And I'm here with Kate.
I'm Kate McAllister, so I'm a third-year marketing and psychology major. So I work as the marketing intern for UNI Business and Community Services. So I do a lot of content creation, graphic design, and social media work. So.
To start off our presentation today, as Patrick said, we looked at some websites and organizations relating to some that you probably are familiar with in your area, and some things that we suggest when thinking about this collaborative or collaboration to incorporate in your marketing and in your website consist of consumer education, personality and people, consistency, and interactivity. Starting off with consumer education. It's important to note that when creating a website or thinking of an organization that educating your consumers is the first and foremost priority. So consumer education is extremely important because it falls into the decision-making process, which is the process of a person on your website or who will potentially buy your product. It's important to create a website that has education from a consumer who may not know anything about native seed, how it can benefit them, or what specific native seed they may need, to a consumer that has all of the information and is just coming on your website to potentially purchase something. So that both ultimately go down to education and creating a platform that has education to fit all people and all levels of understanding.
So first, we need to know and understand the consumer decision-making process. So the first thing we're going to look at is a consumer first recognizes that they have a need. So for this scenario, they realize that, oh, I'm gardening right now, and I want a native seed to plant that's going to be beneficial to my garden. So then that's when you Google, what is the best plant? What's the best native seed to plant in my garden right now? So then it's going to bring up your page as well as the other brands that are your competitors, and that's when a consumer evaluates the alternatives. So they look at all your competitors' pages and your page and decide which website is going to be most beneficial to them. So that's when they make their purchase decision, and hopefully they'll choose you. And once they buy their seed, that's when there's the post-purchase evaluation. So they're going to be reviewing your product. They're going to be on Google, commenting on your website, or even taking pictures of the plant when it's full grown and posting it on social media. That's really important to look for, as it'll give you feedback on your branding and your products. So next up, we're going to talk about personality. It's one of the biggest problems with business-related pages on social media is that there's a lack of personality and people associated with it. So one way that we can make sure that there is people involved and personality involved is by choosing your top 5 traits that you want your brand to associate with. So think about the person that you want to identify as your brand. What personality traits do they have? Are they welcoming? Are they encouraging? Are they accepting, inclusive? So these are all really important to decide when you're working with your branding. One way that you can combine your personality with the people aspect is by posting pictures on your social media pages that include people. By doing this, it helps your consumers feel like they're a part of something. They're a part of a community that's greater than just them, and they don't feel so lost in their process of deciding which seed to purchase.
Following along with personality and people, it's important to create a brand that is full of consistency. This allows your consumers or customers to create a sense of brand recognition and a sense of trust in your organization. Some examples of doing this could be incorporating that people aspect, whether it be posting pictures that your consumers or customers have taken of their full-grown seeds, or just incorporating discussions, people around, showing that there are people who are supporting your organization. Another way is staying consistent in your color palette. Many brands have a specific set of colors, and those are important to portray throughout your website, your magazines, newsletters, and social media, as well as your logo. It's important to keep your logo consistent and relevant. Another form of consistency that could be a suggestion is to create a consistent platform when posting, whether that be posting 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or every day, something that your viewers and consumers are going to be able to recognize and trust that you will have a post for them on those consistent days.
Moving on with this consistency is you're going to want to be interactive with your consumers. So what I mean by this is you want to have likes, shares, comments, anything on your social media page that gets your posts to more people. So one way to do this, kind of going off the personality and people slide here, is having pictures of people. So again, making them feel like they're a part of something. Having pictures of people in the prairie, using your product, planting your product. All these things interact with the consumer, make them feel like, oh, I can do this too. This is what people do. So then the next thing we're going to talk about is visually visually involving your consumers. So for this example in this picture here, it's a map of all the local chapters that this brand associates with. So it helps show that, wow, there is a lot of people that support this, which is really important for your consumers. You want to know, as a consumer, that you're supporting something that a lot of people support. Another way we decided that, or suggest that you could do this, is by having a graph of some sort that shows the consumers where their purchases are going to. So where is their money going to? Are they going to supporting your marketing efforts? Are they supporting your conservation efforts? Are you donating the money to something greater? This makes people feel so much more involved and feel like they're doing something good for the community and make them feel better about their purchase decisions. So the last thing we're going to talk about is kind of with that consistency aspect here. It's scheduled content. So one example of a brand that does this really well is Pheasants Forever. So I see some of you are here today, but they do a Pheasant Fact Friday and Pheasant Fact Friday. And incorporating this into your social media is a great idea because it gets information in front of their faces that's not overwhelming. Like when you approach a website. Sometimes it can get a little overwhelming on a website. So if that just means you want to have a short, consistent, concise fact that goes along with your brand. So one thing we just thought, native Iowa seed, fun fact. Just anything like that gets people looking at the short snippet of information, educating them, and making them recognize your brand more and get your brand out there to more people.
So now that we've talked about some things that we do suggest to incorporate in marketing, we're now going to be talking about some things that we might not necessarily suggest when thinking of marketing efforts, but to follow that up with a way that we can approach it differently or another way to look at some things. So first of all, we have some cluttered information. For any brand that is trying to inform, it can be hard not to want to provide all of that information on the homepage, which can be very hard to read and often overwhelming for the user, wanting them to click out of your website. One way to prevent this could be adding subheadings or subtitles, different tabs for your consumers to be able to click on, allowing them to get to the necessary and proper information that they may need in that short amount of time to help their consumer decision-making process. Also, when thinking about cluttered information, it's important to note that some of these people, your consumers, may not necessarily always have a computer in front of them, and thinking about accessibility for them. They may be in the garden looking at your website or wanting to purchase seed or buy the prairie or sitting at their desk and not having a computer in front of them. Creating a website or any sort of platform online that's easily accessible and interactive and clickable from all devices, whether that be on your phone, your tablet, or your computer.
So next we're going to look at excessive internal links. And what we mean by this is the excessive amount of clicks it takes for a consumer to eventually get to buying your product. Research shows that the more clicks a consumer has to click before they get to the buy page, the more likely they're going to drop out of their consumer decision-making process, leave your site, and look at other sites or even just give up. So we want to make sure that we're making it as easy as possible for consumers to make their purchase decisions. By doing this, or one way to think about doing this is by making clickable images. So as you can see up here, we've got a picture of some t-shirts, and if you click on the image, it actually leads to the buy page, which is incredible because you're clicking on exactly what you want, and it leads straight to the buy page, which is incredibly beneficial to your consumer's decision-making process.
Next thing we're going to be talking about is heavy colorways when thinking of marketing or branding on your website. While we do notice, we understand and appreciate that the prairie is full-grown and flourishing and looks the best when there are bright and beautiful colors. We don't always necessarily recommend that when creating a color palette for your website. I mean, imagine thinking of yourself wearing a bright red t-shirt with some bright orange neon pants. You're probably not gonna wear that. It's not really aesthetically pleasing, and I mean, I personally wouldn't wear it out. But just thinking the same way on your website. It's important, and we suggest to maybe save those bright colors for the pictures of the seed when it is full grown, instead of creating them on your branding and adapting your branding as neutral, more muted tones that are able to tie in with those colors, but not necessarily be the entire brand.
So raise your hand if when you open a web page and the first thing you see is a big ad, are you going to read that ad and click on and sign up for a newsletter? Yeah, I didn't think so. I wouldn't either. So actually, when we were doing our research and one of our brands that we were researching, we log on to the web page and immediately this big ad comes up for their newsletter. That's great. We recognize that you want to advertise your newsletter. You want people to be reading it, of course. But the first thing instinctively I did was click out of it. I didn't read it. I didn't look at it. I clicked out of it because that's not what I was looking for on the web page. So if I did that, if you wouldn't look at the ad, your consumers wouldn't either. So make sure you're thinking like a consumer when creating web pages and social media content. So one example of how we would fix this is by making a smaller ad at the top of your web page. Research shows that when you have a web page, people read it top to bottom. That makes sense. That's how you read a book. So by putting that ad up at the top there, they're still seeing it. You're still getting the same amount of impressions, but people might actually read it. If it just says something like, sign up to learn more, that allows your consumer to read some information on your webpage and then decide if they want to learn more by applying or registering for your newsletter.
So now that we have given you some of our suggestions from a marketing standpoint of things that we may recommend incorporating in marketing and things that we may change or not necessarily recommend, we asked the question of potentially what could be the future of the Iowa Native Seed Marketing Collaborative. And while we don't know that, and you guys may not necessarily know that yet, we leave you all with talking points on your paper and that you guys may be able to discuss later. But we thank you for this opportunity to come and speak, and it's been a joy to learn.
We do have a little time for questions, and obviously as they did all of the research and looking at different brands, they learned a lot. They're definitely consumer experience experts, and so they definitely focused in on what the consumer feels and sees and all those things. And we thought it would be more fun to show you that than like, here's a kind of boring marketing plan, right? That, and we wanted those things to be informed by the group. So the handout that Haley and Kate put together, those bottom half of those sections, and as I understand it, there's a breakout later, are things that would help to inform what a strategy could potentially look like, to potentially do in terms of who would be the target customer, what is the size of that market, and a variety of those things. This is hopefully a place to start that conversation with ideas and different things and get you thinking about how a collaborative marketing effort could work in Iowa. And there's definitely research, I think you saw some of the ones I looked at up there as well, that we've investigated to come to some of these suggestions. So if there are any questions, we will absolutely do our best to answer them.
You talked a lot about websites. Is there
Yeah.
a way to make a website more accessible for, say, an older audience?
I would just say the biggest, I would recommend the biggest thing would be interactivity. A lot of people, especially an older demographic, love to see where their money is going, or how they themselves are feeling incorporated in the brand. So just easily accessible things such as pictures, the map, the pie chart, not necessarily paragraphs of words. I mean, any demographic is not going to read that, but creating a website and having a platform that's easily accessible and interactive.
To go off of that, I would also say wording your education, your more information-heavy aspects of your website. Think about how would you explain this to your grandma or your grandpa? How would you explain it to them? You would explain it a lot differently to them than you would your peers and your colleagues. So just think about that when you're making your web pages.
You guys grade websites?
Do you have a specific one? We might have seen it.
Yeah, but I made it, so I feel too vulnerable.
Was it one up here?
I don't think so.
Okay. Send us a message. Let us know.
Yeah.
They have awesome social media, by the way. They even have a podcast. Some weird people have been on it.
So just to make sure I understand, the websites that you looked at weren't necessarily commercial websites selling seed. They were websites that were sort of this collaborative, similar to what we want to do, have some kind of collaborative marketing effort, like Pheasants Forever, for instance.
It's a mix of both.
It was a mix of both. Okay.
There were some that were just commercial seed sellers and some that were the collaboratives, some that you did.
Yeah. We don't have a lot of examples of that.
Right. So, good question. Go ahead.
This, I don't know how much you just specifically focused on Iowa, but to Dr. Jackson's point, there's the Missouri Grow Native Foundation. Was that a website you came across, and do you have kind of any lessons to share with us on that?
So we did not specifically look at that, but we did reference it a little bit. Oh, yeah, Grow Native?
Yes.
Okay, then yes, that was one of the websites we looked at.
How would you rate there? Do you have any review?
Yeah. Are your colorways purple and green?
That's the one.
So we loved it. Our one recommendation was just to maybe a mix of those branding colors. While the purple and green do stand out to us, maybe incorporating some colors with a lower muted tone, such as like the whites and the yellows, that might be of interest.
Thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Also,
Because it's a tough audience.
do you guys post pictures from other people on your social media? Are you aware of like other people's photos?
I'm not with that organization.
One thing I noticed was that was definitely a big part of the people aspect. Many of their social medias were pictures from their customers and consumers of the plants that they had been growing in their own prairie and garden, and that attracts a lot of people, especially the outsiders, to see that it's such a community-based platform.
How do you get customers to send you those pictures?
Straight up ask them. Tell them, give them an email address, give them, they can send a DM, direct message, for those who aren't as aware, through your social media pages. So just ask them, do you have any photos? Send your photos our way of your prairie or of you in our prairie. That's really as simple as can be.
How would the marketing look differently? So like I come from an organization where we're not selling products, but we're trying to sell conservation practices and people to sign up for that. So how would marketing look similarly or differently if you're trying to sell a program versus a product?
My recommendation, personally, when thinking of that, I would just say examples of maybe the steps or the ways that it's worked in the past. I'm not sure if you're aware of Reels or if you have an Instagram, but just the process of that also allows for like a 30-second video explaining. I think that will allow you to get the point across. And sometimes just hearing someone's voice in a video format allows for a more, just better understanding.
I think you probably noticed too, for all these things, the audience and context matters, right? Like if your audience is, they love Instagram. I've never used Instagram in my life. I haven't because I was forced to, but not by choice. So context and all those things in the program that you're doing, like my program, we're doing the same thing. We're selling programming to students. So we utilize students to be able to reach them through things like Instagram and TikTok. But if that's not where your audience is or where their interest lies, that's definitely going to probably affect the answer a little bit.
Yeah, we do have a lot of older population.
Yeah, like me, absolutely. Compared to them, I am older. Compared to other people, it's probably not fair. Any last questions or thoughts? Comments? All right, we appreciate the time. Thank you to Kate and Haley for doing that.